name is April McCarty, and I've had some really interesting things happen to me in the last year, about year and a half. And why would you care about that? Well, because I think that in a lot of the things that I have gone through, I think a lot of people go through, and a lot of people, maybe in different ways, but a lot of people have the same questions. A little background about me. I grew up as a Christian. I became a Christian when I was 4 years old. I accepted the Lord into my heart. So I grew up in a Christian home. My grandpa was a pastor. I went to a Christian church. I just submersed. I went to Christian camps, all that stuff, youth group, everything. So you would think, well, then you must have all the answers. And why is why such this big change now? I'm 50, by the way, which seems really old to maybe some of you, but once you start to get around that age, you're going to be like, whoa, maybe 90s old. Anyway, this last year, I ended up just totally giving my life over to God. Does that sound really boring? It could. And actually, it's funny because growing up, well, let's just be honest here, because that's what I want this to be about. I want this to be open, transparent, honest. I don't want to be one of those people that polishes everything up and makes everything seem perfect and wonderful. There are a lot of things that can seem not perfect and not wonderful. There's a lot of things that happen in life, and we can question why. How is there a God allowing, if you look at the news and the things that have happened in the past in history, the Holocaust, the, genocide that has happened in many places of the world, just all of that stuff. You're like, well, how can God allow that and be a loving God? A lot of these questions growing up have been answered in a very surface sort of way. Well, God is just and God, knows what he's doing. Okay, but I'm the human down here on earth, and I don't know all that stuff. And sometimes I think we can feel like it's like maybe, it's blasphemous to question God. I think God wants us to get to know him really, really well. And he wants us to have that relationship. And I think he wants us to understand as much as we can while we're on this earth, all about him, why he does the things he does. But anyway, that's going to be coming up. I went to church today, and it's interesting because I am not one of those people that's like, oh yeah, I gotta go to church. I really love church. I'm sorry for those of you who do and don't understand that. And I think it's totally amazing, and I hope to be like that one day. Having grown up in a world of church and all of that, I had to go to church. I had to do all this. I had to, memorize verses. I had to do this. And I'm not saying at all that it's a bad thing to have your kids do this. But I think that what's most important is to instill in people, I think them understanding the reason why we do this and why it's important to go to church and learn about God and to do all that, how it affects our life, what it does for our life, the way that it brings joy and peace and comfort in those times when it feels like there's nothing that's going to help us feel better. There's nothing when the world is falling around us. Anyway, back to what I was saying, and that is, I went to church today. Part of the sermon was about sharing the things that have happened in your life with other people. And sometimes that can seem like, oh, okay, are you just like kind of bragging about? No. What he was talking about was that there was a time, and actually he was talking about how compressed the Bible is. You can turn the pages and something else, God is doing something else. You turn the page, God is doing something else. But he brought up the point that let's say when the Israels were in captivity in Egypt. And if you don't know about this, it's in Exodus, and you can check, look into it. You can even Google you can go onto Google and Google it if you would like to. But for those who know the story, the Egyptians had the Israelites all as slaves. They had to work for them. It was under very cruel conditions. They had even put all of the Israelites' firstborn sons to death. There was a lot of stuff that was horrible, but this was 400 years of this. 400 years without a Moses showing up, without, some great miracles, without this, without that, just being in slavery. And so there's times in our lives where it may seem like it's a dry spell and like, man, what is going on? So when we hear these stories from other people, then we realize God is working all the time. Because I'm sure that there was times in those Israelites' lives during that 400 years that different things had happened that, showed God being there. And the sharing of that is it's like a medicine to the soul. It's like understanding, okay, I'm not alone. God is working here and there. Maybe I'm just missing. I mean, the very fact that we wake up in the morning, that's God allowing us to. Just all these things. There's so many times, I know that a lot of times people will get upset because they can't find their car keys or something happens and they're running late. And what they don't know is that God just saved them from being in an accident or something that could have happened. Maybe running into the wrong person as they're walking to work. Who knows? But there's so many ways that God does work in our lives. But to share the things that we come across and that we realize and that we can see happening, it helps other people. But I think also sharing the struggles, sharing the way that we've had to live by faith. For me, specifically, one of the reasons that I want to do this YouTube channel is because I've had to live completely by faith. And that changes your whole world. Not like in some way where, a light shines down and you're like, oh, I'm doing exactly what I should be doing. No, it's really interesting because it's almost like putting out little things and saying, okay, God, if you do this, then that's kind of my sign that I'm going to go ahead and move forward with this. And then, different things happen and you're like, whoa, I didn't even know that this was how God was going to work this out. Just praying to God. And I've had a lot of that happen where, my God, I need you to work this out. I don't know what to do. I want to give my life to you, but I don't know what to do next. And boom, something would happen. And it would be like, I could have never thought of this in my brain. I would have never come up with it. But God has control of everything, and he thinks way above our little puny brains. But anyway, I think it's important for us to share those things. And I hope this doesn't come across as me trying to preach at anyone. I don't even really want to think of it as teaching. It's more of sharing and of hoping that if it's just one person who watches this channel and is like, wow, this really helped me through this time, or this, this brought me to God, or this did that, I will be happy. I'm leaving this whole channel up to in God's hands, what he wants to get done, what his plan is, what his will is for this. I actually have been kind of fighting against it because I just was like, I'm probably gonna be boring. Why is anyone gonna watch this? Why? And I keep getting things just like the sermon today talked about. Hey, we need to share this stuff. So here I am. Just to let you know, this is more of an introduction video. The next one, we'll start getting into more stuff. Yes, I have my little list because just starting out, I can't remember everything that I want to talk about, so I have little points. But there's some topics that have come up definitely in my life that I think a lot of people wonder about. A lot of people think that living for God or giving your life over to God can be really boring. It's not. In fact, it's more of an adventure. It's not just an adventure. It's almost like you're reaching into a realm that is outside of us. And I don't know. It's not like mystical and, woo-woo stuff. I'm talking, it's when you live by faith, it's kind of cool because it's kind of like, and I don't know how much I want to relate it to like superhero stuff because it's not like I feel like a superhero. I definitely don't at all. I mess up. I am so human. I'm so not perfect. But it's that when you're living your life in the realm of trusting God, you see things, you're more aware of different things that are happening, And one of the things I will say is that, there are definitely times where I'm like, okay, April, are you just like, is all this just coincidence and you're like reading so much into this? And I'm telling you, the closer that you work on getting to God, the more Satan is going to try and put those thoughts of doubt in your mind. Keeping it real again, even in talking on here, sometimes I have already felt like, okay, I need to communicate this in a way where it doesn't sound too, all Bible-y and boring. That's not my job. God's gonna use my words, and that's what I have to remember is that this is for God. I'm not gonna be perfect. Look at my background. I have my little fire heater going. So yeah, maybe that'll get better. I'm sure I'll learn some new things and stuff, but this is about doing what God wants me to do, and I feel like God wants me to share. So some of the topics that I would love to delve into, and I want to start into, and I want to be regular on these, and I don't know if it's going to be once a week, twice a week, what it will be. Some of those topics are, does God love us? I know that sounds like, well, of course he loves us, but really, as I have been learning about the depths of his love, I'm actually excited to get into this, because I, even growing up in in the whole Christian lifestyle, there is so much that I did not understand about God's love, and that it's pretty exciting. And he has been there for me during some really, really, really rough times. And the more that I've learned about God, the more that I've realized that his love is all encompassing. And I am excited to go to heaven and feel, just to totally absorb and understand and be surrounded with that love, because this earth does not portray it. This earth, as far as humanity, mankind, what we do to each other, the way that we're so fickle, and I love you one day and the next day, no, I don't love you, I don't even really care about you, or just all the hurt that we've caused each other. And some of us are so scared to love because it just makes us think of painful things. So I think we resist that. And anyway, I can't wait to get into that one. But also there's feeling love for God. Maybe some of you feel this overwhelming love for God. I know my grandpa always talked about how much he loved the Lord. I struggled with actually feeling, do I love God? And so what I want to get into is feeling love for God, like actually feeling like, oh, I love God and this is why I do this. Whereas I think there's some of us, and I'm one of those people, that kind of goes on faith of, okay, maybe some things happen in our past, some things, trauma or whatever, that has really skewed the way that we feel love, or different things. And so maybe we don't feel that love for God like some people do, but it's that living on faith and doing what he wants us to do and allowing that love to be felt. We'll get into that. People, do you know how many people tell me they don't want to be around people? People, like, these days it seems so much more where people try to avoid people. Yeah, we have social media and everybody's showing what they're doing and all this stuff like that, but if you talk to a lot of people, you probably have. I have come across a lot of people that don't like people, and yet people are what it's all about. But I was one of those people. I'm working on that, actually. That's like, I would rather be at home doing what I want to do and not being bothered. And again, I think so much of it comes from pain and from the lessons we've been taught by people. We'll get into that more later. Does God want us to be around people and love people? I'm going to say probably, but we'll delve into that. Does God care about my trauma? Stuff that's happened to us. Or are we supposed to just pray it away and say, hey, trust in God, that happened in the past, move on? I think God gave us brains and people that study that stuff to help us work through that, because there are things, I know this personally, there are things that happen in our lives when we're kids, as we're growing older, even as adults, things like that that cause our minds to think a certain way about people or about relationships or, all kinds of things. And so, yeah, that's one of the topics I want to delve into. Praying can seem so boring. Like, okay, I got to pray today. And I felt guilty because I'm like, okay, I need to pray, but man, I just don't feel like praying. So is it really good for me to pray? Or am I does God even care? And then I think, okay, what if you don't pray? Is that better than praying when you don't feel like it? And there's people that I pray for every single day. There's some people I pray for every day because they're on my mind. There's other people I'm like, oh yeah, this person, I gotta pray for them. Is that wrong? We'll get into that. Being gay. That's another topic we'll get into. It's something a lot of people don't like to talk about, or they think they've got their minds made up. Oh, well, if you're gay, how can you be talking about God? Blah, blah, blah. We'll get into that because I think there's a difference between, we'll get into it. You'll see. It'll be interesting. And I don't think it's exactly what you think it's going to be. So, yeah. Tithing's a big one that I've thought about. You look at all these things that have happened with these churches and stuff where, okay, I'm tithing my 10% that I can barely afford, and the pastor's driving a Porsche. Okay, so we'll delve into that one. Is it important to tithe? Or is it the only way God said, test me in this? And does God have control over that money? And is it about that money, or is it about your heart and what you're doing? So yeah, we'll get into that. That'll be another topic. It sounds boring to follow God. We kind of touched on it a little bit, but I think that's a topic that a lot of people, I know I did. I was like, if I give my life over to God, does that mean I can't have fun anymore? Actually, in some ways, you're going to have more fun. And yeah, you might have to give up things. Smoking meth is probably not in God's will. Going out and partying all night and sleeping around is probably not in God's will. Those different things. But we'll get into how boring it can be to follow God, or maybe how exciting and how different and how eye-opening it is to follow God. And I'm not perfect. It's not like I'm there following him all the time with every single thing I say and do. I have a lot to work on. But I'm just saying, as I'm on the journey, it's not boring. There's topic after topic, but one of the other ones I was thinking about is forgiveness. Who should we forgive? Do we forgive everyone? How many times do we forgive them? Do we forgive but say, hey, I'm going to forgive this person, but I'm never going to talk to them again? Or do we forgive and let them keep walking all over us? Where's that where's that line at? What am I supposed to do with that? Anyway, that's my quick introduction. This is the stuff that I want to get into because it's stuff that has been coming up in my life and just the different questions, and there's a whole bunch more. But I want to be able to share with you guys, and I want you guys to feel free to comment in the comment section. Please keep it decent. If you want to be a troll, whatever, do your best. But I probably won't respond if you sound trolly. But any actual concerns or questions or things that you'd like to discuss that have come up in your life, cool. Please put that in there, and we'll try and hit on that. So, all right. Thank you so much for listening to me and for taking the time out of your day. And I will see you back here soon. All right.